Hi, so this is me showing you how awesome iQuotes are and how you get an iQuote all around your project. And I'm gonna start with, so we're gonna do a iQuote cast on, we're gonna have iQuote selvedge edges and also an iQuote binder. And at the very end I'll show you how to use kitchen stitch and also grafting to get those iQuotes to meet the beginning and the end of the iQuotes to have them meet. So we're going to start with provisionally casting on 3 stitches, and you can either use waste yarn or just one of those 2 colors. If you have a multicolor project, it will be unraveled very quickly at the very beginning, so you can just use your color B, for instance. You can see I put the yarn in the back of the book and then I crochet stitch over the needle. You don't have to use crochet hooks, you can just use your fingers. It's just those 3 stitches and that's it. So I'll just leave this hanging here and then it's super easy to unravel. That's why I use this technique. There's different ones where you can actually crochet or cast on right onto your needle. That works as well, fine as well. But that's the technique I prefer. Okay, so now I'm going to use different color to knit a length of iQuote. You just knit those 3 stitches and then you slide them back. Either slide them back onto your left needle or slide them to the other side of your needle, so you can work another right side row. And then the yarn travels from the leftmost stitch to the right, so you can knit another right side row. And that's all there is to iQuotes really. You have to pull a little so you can see it. So it's knit 3, knit 3, slip 3. That's all there is to iQuotes. Super simple, and that's, you know, the really good techniques really are usually super simple. Toby's hungry, but he's always hungry. He already had his breakfast. And when you do an iQuote cast on like this, you can see here, this is 1 row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and you want to work 2 rows more than you want to cast on stitches. So if you want to cast on 10 stitches, work 12 rows, because that very first row, you know, we're going to unravel that provisional cast on, and those are going to be live stitches that we need for the iQuote selvedge, and that very last row is also going to be live stitches for the iQuote selvedge. So work 2 more rows than you want to cast on stitches. I'll do just 1 or 2 more. And you really don't have to tighten everything up or knit that for the very first stitch super tight. Maybe if you're a very loose knitter, but I don't really knit differently than I do anything else. So what you want to do now is I want to have this very last line of stitches that comes from the 3rd stitch. I want to leave this one here uninterrupted. So I turn my work and pick up here from the back. So I'm gonna leave this line here uninterrupted and pick up. But the first one is the trickiest, and after that it is very simple. So I'll pick up from insert the needle through both backs of the stitch, and then I knit it. And then I do the same with the next stitch. Insert, knit. Then you pick up one stitch from every I-cord row you worked, except for the first one and the very last one. Okay, so now it's time to unravel that provisional cast on. Just look at, this is the loop that I made for crocheting, and I pull on it. And what I do now is I'm actually going to slip those stitches. See, this is the first stitch. I'm going to slip it onto my needle already, just so it can't get lost. So, and then it's the second one. And then obviously you don't have a full stitch, but it's only a half stitch, because there's like a half stitch offset. That is normal, but you can still have a full loop here. So I put this under my needle as well. And then I pull and unravel that provisional cast on, and I can take it out. And then I'll have those 3 stitches on the needle, and they're not on the needle like I need them. The first thing I do is I have this little yarn, this little tail end yarn here, and you can see here it comes here through this very last stitch, and it's gonna be in my way. So what I do is I pull it through that stitch and to the back of the book, so it's not here in the middle of my cord anymore. And then what I want to do is, these are going to be the I-cord stitches at the end of the row, and they have to be lined up like this, with the back side facing the front, so that this stitch that's in line here has to be at the very edge of the row, at the very end of the row. So what I have to do is I have to line them up like this and transfer them onto the needle like this. And the easiest way for me to do it is, this should be in the front. This is the working yarn. You put it into the front, you turn that needle, so you have this front side facing here and the back facing here, and then you slide them onto your needle, and then you hold it tight so you don't slip off, and pull that needle out. And then you have this stitch that's in line here, is at the very edge. And this is actually the same as for the I-cord tab cast on that you need for top-down shawls, for instance, or if you have working on diagonal and you start at the corner. It's the same, but you don't have as many stitches in between. You have just either 1 stitch or 3 stitches, so very short I-cord, but the technique is actually just the same. And then you have, so this is the back of the book now, and you can see it because this tail end, put it in the back, so this marks the wrong side. And then we just knit. You just knit those I-cord stitches, and then work in pattern, whatever your pattern is. Mine is garter stitch, and you work in pattern to the last 3 stitches, and those are the I-cord stitches again. And then we put the yarn, working yarn, in front of the book and slip those 3 stitches purlwise. turn around, and here is the beautiful I-cord cast on that goes uninterrupted all the way up the sides. And now I'm gonna you know, kind of work in stripes for a bit just to show you. So you work I-cord selvage stitches. It's very easy. You always knit the first 3 stitches, then you work in pattern to the last 3 stitches of the row, and then you slip those last 3 stitches with yarn in front purlwise and turn your work. It's the same on wrong side rows and right side rows. So this is the wrong side row, but it's the same. Knit 3, work in pattern until you reach the last 3 stitches, put the yarn in front and slip those last 3 stitches purlwise. And when you change color, you just pick up the other color and work with it. Knit 3, work to the last 3 stitches, put the working yarn in front of the work and slip those last 3 stitches. And then again knit 3, so if you have garter stitch has a very the row gauge of garter stitch is very good with I-cords. I-cord edges, because you have like 1 I-cord row for every 2 pattern rows, and garter stitch is a very condensed stitch, so that distance is spanned easily with this 1 I-cord row. But if you have a stitch that has a different row gauge, I don't know, maybe lace or even stockinette, you might want to make sure, or even if you work on a diagonal, you know, if you have lots of increases or decreases at your edges, then you really need to make sure that you work those I-cord stitches loosely. So leave a little slack here. Work those stitches very loosely if that's the case, or if you're very tight knit as well. Don't strangle your I-cords. You know, if it's just garter stitch and if it's just a rectangle, it's not going to be an issue. It's going to be fine. But you know, if it's on a diagonal, if you have like a shawl, for instance, it starts at a tip and has lots of increases, you really want to make sure that your I-cords are loose enough, or your edges are gonna curl and you won't be able to block out your knitting. Okay, obviously now I forgot to work my stripes, so I'll just keep working with this grey a bit and show you how to do the bind off. Okay, one last time, slip those last 3 stitches with the yarn in front and knit the first 3 stitches. Work to the last 3 stitches of the row. You can see here, this is the back of the I-cord, and it's just gonna close up and slip those last 3 stitches with yarn in front. So you can see, if you pull, you can see here the working yarn that travels this length of yarn, and it's just going to cool in and close this gap, and it's going to be looking almost the same from right side and wrong side. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the I could bind off here in this contrast color. You should not be doing this. So if you're going to knit, you should not be carrying yarn up like this. You might want to either twist between the rows or just cut it and attach a new length of yarn. But I'm not going to use this for anything, so it's just a swatch to show you. So this is fine. So what I do here is I need to work across this corner, because this I cord that goes here up here is gonna bend and go around this corner. What I need to do is work one row, just the 3 stitches, and slip them back onto the left needle. So this is just to add some slack to the I cord. And what I do now is I knit 2, and then I knit 2 together through the back loop. So my last I cord stitch together with the next stitch, and then slip them back onto the left needle, and repeat. Knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop, and slip them back onto the left needle. Knit 2, knit 2 together through the back loop. And again, if this is like super stretchy pattern, if you have brioche, or if you have I don't know, just 1 by 1 or whatever needs a lot of stretch, use a larger needle size for the bind off. And you can see here we've made this bend, and we're gonna work this I cord bind off until knit 2 together through the back loop, until I have here the 3 stitches from the I cord selvedge meeting the 3 stitches from the I cord bind off. And what I need to do now is I'm gonna have to get them together so it's closed and it looks just like all the other corners. And the way to do it is through kitchen stitch. So you need to break your working yarn. You don't need a very long tail because it's just 3 stitches. You break your working yarn, and then you need a needle, a darning needle. Mine was at the other end of the row, so here I'm back, and then you thread the tail end through the darning needle. And then you line up your 2 needles, and the one where the tail end comes from is in the back. You make sure that both right sides are facing you, or outside. And then I start with going from, like, this is the inside and this is the outside. Here's the inside, and I go and start here from the inside to the first stitch on my upper needle. This is just to secure the yarn. And then I start with kitchen stitch, and I do this for, oh no, this one is lined up wrong, sorry. So that's important. it has to be lined up correctly, so you might have to change it. Okay, so right side here, right side here. You start by inserting your yarn from the inside, throw that first stitch on the top needle, and then we're going to work kitchen stitch for stockinette, just for those 3 stitches. And we start by inserting the needle from the outside to the inside, and then slipping the stitch off the needle, and then we're at the inside, and from the inside to the outside of that second stitch, and then again from the outside to the inside of that top stitch, of that first stitch on the top, and slip it off the needle, and then from the inside to the outside that second stitch. Then we're back here on the lower needle, from the outside to the inside and off the needle, from the inside to the outside that third stitch, from the outside to the inside of that second stitch of the upper needle and off the needle, and from the inside to the outside. So you can see here that I don't pull, so this is a real mess here, but it's so much better than if you pull too tight. So from the outside to the inside and off the needle, and what I'm doing now is don't have any more stitches to work here, but this one needs to be bound off as well. So from the outside to the inside and off the needle, and now you have here obviously a big mess. And you just look at where is the beginning of this row, and then you just use, either your fingers or your darning needle to tighten everything up. And it's better if you have at first stitches way too loose, this kitchen bind off way too loose, and then just after you worked, even if you have a large project, just go back and after you're working a couple of stitches, and then go back and tighten them up like I do now. It's so much better than if you pull too tight right at the beginning, because you're not going to be able to repair it later. So, kitchen stitch, and you have a perfect I-cord traveling all around your project, even if it's just a tiny little project here. And then you just break all yarn, weaving those ends, and add I-cords to all of your projects. Happy knitting!